Good afternoon, folks. First of all, can I be heard? I suppose that's the most important question. Okay, we have live audio. Excellent. Welcome. Good evening to our viewers in Europe and Africa. Good afternoon to viewers in the Western Hemisphere. Very special episode of The Angry Astronaut being brought to you today from the convention floor of Space Symposium. And we have a special guest joining us today. Would you be so kind as to introduce yourself to the viewers?
Sure. My name is Rich Cooper. I work as Space Foundation's Vice President for Strategic Communications and Space Awareness.
Thanks very much for joining us today. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for being here.
Sure. So tell me, first of all, in regards to the conference, we're coming up towards the end of it now. How's it feeling to you? How have things gone? Any high points to share?
It feels great. This is our 40th Space Symposium. We've had just over 11,500 persons come through from 60 countries, a record 310 exhibitors. It's been great. And again, one of the things that is, yes, there are fabulous exhibits and there's fabulous displays. Ultimately, this is about people and people connecting with each other. And when you can literally create an Epcot of space and you can tour the world with military, commercial, and civil and research, you can do that all here. This is a great place to be.
Indeed, no doubt. So, of course, the thing you mentioned, the exhibits, the things that are attracting everybody's attention is what's in the background here, the various Lunar Rovers. And, of course, we're going to be showing this to everybody here shortly when we have a recorded tour that's going to be playing. But in terms of Artemis, how big of a presence do you think Artemis has at Symposium this year with the people who are participating?
I think what you're seeing are all the support elements around Artemis. When you start to see the habitat, when you start to see the vehicles, when you start to see the new suits, and then you start to see all of the other support mechanisms. No one goes to space alone. It takes infrastructure, it takes people, it takes all of those pieces coming together. And if you don't have those pieces, it's not a great trip. But what you are seeing is a maturing industry and a maturing community that's ready for that Artemis challenge.
So obviously we have if we compare this to the IAC conventions that I always attend as well, there's obviously a big military component, a big war fighting, shall we say, part of things. And what sort of big moments did we have on that side of the equation at this particular symposium?
We've had both General Whiting speak here, and in fact he's around on the exhibit floor. He's come back to meet with more companies and more of the persons that we have here. But then yesterday we had CSO General Saltzman, and General Saltzman, in leading Space Force, really talked about the criticality of having the partners and that space being a team sport. And again, no one country, you need to have your allies, you need to have your friends, you need to have the relationships, you have to understand the capabilities. And when you come to an activity like Symposium here, he, as well as the other leaders of Space Force, be they the officers or the enlisted, are being able to see what is the capacity, who is out there doing these things. I want to learn more. How could we work together? And again, when you start a conversation with someone, you start a relationship. And in what Space Force has to do, let alone whether it be civil space, you want to have the relationships, you want to have those understandings, because you want to do things and get things done.
Now, obviously, it's been in the media a lot in terms of NATO, some friction in NATO, that sort of thing. But at the same time, I had the opportunity to interview a new leader over at Goonhilly Earth Station, who's a member of the RAF and such. And from his perspective, he says that the military connections, the military cooperation is as strong as it has ever been. What is your take on that?
Agree. Absolutely. And activities like the Space Symposium here help that happen. You create relationships, you have the handshakes, you can look one another in the eye, and if you can start that relationship, you can reach out to that person on the good days, but you certainly want to be able to reach out to them on the bad days when you need their support. And Space Symposium for 40 years has been doing that for persons in this countries, but as it has become more and more international, we're proud to be able to play a role in building those relationships for the Guardians, for the Air Force, for any military force that's coming here and wants to be a part of the global space community.
Fantastic. Last thing I just ask of you, we have space enthusiasts watching from around the world right now. Anything you'd like to communicate with them, especially to folks who have never been to a space symposium before?
I guess the thing I'd like to say to all of you is that if you know a young person who really has their eyes fixed on the stars, do everything you can to help that child, whomever they may be, wherever they may be, reach them. Because there is no one way to get to space. Everybody has a space story. It's a great story to share, but we need more people in the space community to do all the missions that we need to serve here on Earth, but then the bigger ones we want to do outside of Earth. So if you see that young person and they need some help with math, science, or whatever that might be, help them out. Don't let them give up, because we want them reaching for the stars.
Well, speaking as a person whose daughter has just graduated as an engineer, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you so much for your time, and congratulations.
Thank you for coming here.
Absolutely. All right, folks, we now have a recorded tour of the symposium. We're going to be bringing you a lot of exciting details, especially these lunar rovers. There's 3 different lunar rovers here, all competing to be the rover of choice for the Artemis program. As soon as our producer can cue that up, we're going to go ahead and run that tour for you now. Yeah. We have a minor technical difficulty, and we'll go ahead and get that tour going for you here in just a second. Got a B-roll going here, but we'll have it in just a moment. Yep. Okay, there we go. Floor at Space Symposium, and I'll tell you, there's so much amazing technology to have a look at. So let's go ahead and pay a visit to Lockheed Martin first. As you can see here, even though I talk about inflatable modules all the time in regards to Sierra Space, Lockheed is clearly interested in this type of technology as well. And this is in conjunction with a lot of what they're doing in regards to space station technology. Obviously, inflatables are where it is with a lot of folks anyway. The big question is this the sort of module that NASA wants to use? Are people going to be comfortable with that as opposed to solid modules? Difficult to tell. We got the big name on the floor, Rocket Lab, when it's talking about innovation and we're talking about sophistication. As I've said many times, Rocket Lab is building the most sophisticated rocket, next generation rocket on the market. And of course, the reason I say this is because of all the sophisticated materials that are being used in the construction of Neutron. Really, really amazing. I mean, the ability for this rocket to carry as much mass as it can up to low Earth orbit and beyond, even though it's tiny, just a tiny rocket compared to Vulcan Centaur, compared to Falcon 9, certainly compared to Falcon Heavy and things like Starship, and yet its payload capability is beyond impressive. Oh, we got Space Invaders. All right. I never get sick of that. Thank you, John. Yeah, there's a lot of companies who are also bringing the finer points of this type of technology to the floor. Folks that you may not have heard of. You're talking, of course, about the components that are necessary for fairing separation. Or in this case, these folks seem to, yes, fairing separation for Vulcan Centaur, it appears. Impressive stuff. You folks able to talk to us? Great, fantastic. So I'm Jordan Wright. I'm called the Angry Astronaut. Good to meet you. Tell me about your company. Tell me about what we're looking at here.
So we're Ensign Bickford Aerospace and Defense, and what we do is primarily stage and fairing separation for launch vehicles. That's a big part of our business, and then we do a payload separation for big things like Kuiper coming up today. Hopefully, is that all the spacecraft that are going to get dispensed are our products that you see on the wall right behind you.
So you guys are handling a lot of the components then for the Kuiper launch taking place in a few hours then?
Yep, our fingers are all crossed with everyone else, yeah. Hopefully she's the go today, right?
Yes, certainly hope so. I'll be covering that event tonight, hopefully, but very exciting.
On the Atlas rocket itself, we do all the stage separation, fairing separation hardware for that, so we have all that hardware, and then separating the spacecraft itself. So, yeah, we've got a big day coming up.
Aside from ULA, can you name any other big customers?
Yeah, that guy right there.
You, Glenn, as well.
Oh, Oh yeah, so the two big new guys, absolutely. They're really good customers of ours. Been working with them since the inception. So we qualified our hardware on Atlas V, and we had ULA in this week, and just talking about how we were qualifying our hardware for Vulcan 15 years later-ish. So yeah, good stuff.
Fantastic. I appreciate you talking to us today. Thanks a lot. Take care. All right. That's fantastic, folks. In many cases, these folks are not allowed to talk to journalists unless they've cleared it with their PR people, etc. So it's really nice to get an opportunity to talk to somebody just off the cuff like that. So, of course, I'm sure all of you want to have a look at this incredible lunar rover from Lunar Dawn. It's a combined effort between Lunar Outpost, General Motors, Leidos, Goodyear, MDA Space. I mean, it's a huge collaboration that we have going on with these folks. As you probably know, I was seriously pulling for the Dynetics/Leidos solution when they came out with their design, but now Dynetics has found a way to get involved in this process anyway by becoming part of the Lunar Dawn design. Can't beat that. Very interesting stuff. Let's go ahead and continue because we have another rover over here from Intuitive Machines. It's just amazing to see all the technology you got on the floor here. Just blows my mind. As you can see, this bears a much greater resemblance to a dune buggy or a Land Rover. Just big differences in design philosophy behind this. And again, once again, these folks are competing for who's going to be the rover of choice for the Artemis program. So these folks obviously are part of Intuitive Machines. I don't think I'm allowed to sit in there. I haven't seen it. We're going to find out if I'm allowed to sit in there. Are you allowed to sit in here or not? Okay, great. Thank you. So anyway, I'm ready to head to the moon. When do I get to launch? Fantastic stuff. Really fascinating. Hey, you know what? Let's go around to the back. I seem to recall seeing something on the Moon Racer that was intriguing. Oh, yeah, here it is. They've got this lunar regolith vacuum up here, which a lot of you have probably seen it. This sort of thing on a lot of lunar landers recently. And, of course, we got solar panels up here. Fantastic stuff. All right, on we go. I'm going to head over to Airbus. Airbus, of course, being heavily engaged in the space station program. Not sure if they have anything. No, I'm not seeing anything in regards to Starlab at the Airbus pavilion right now. Let's continue. Down the next aisle. By the way, there's 2 floors in this place. We're only going to have time for one. But I'm taking you to all the cool mock-ups, all the cool technology on display. Here's New Glenn. And Amazon, of course. Amazon making their presence felt, of course, because Kuiper is going to orbit in a few hours, the first significant deployment of Kuiper satellites. All righty. Let's go ahead and head over to Astrolab, to our 3rd lunar rover of the day. And I've been reporting on these folks quite a lot over the years. Joker, thank you so much. And they have not one, but 2 rovers. So we need to make sure that we check this out. This has long been my favorite design. To me, this strikes me as more of a design for the moon rather than trying to make a Earth rover, an Earth vehicle, fit into a lunar environment. There's no need for that. There's no need for a roof, for example. I mean, we've seen these things with little roofs and such. What exactly is supposed to fall on these folks? And have a look at these wheels. Very interesting design from Venturi, by the way. And Venturi is also, for those of you who've been watching the channel for a while, you may remember this particular rover as well. This is not designed for people, but rather for transporting cargo, etc. It has, of course, built-in solar power as well, and those same Venturi wheels. Very interesting stuff. As I say, I've been covering that for quite some time, but talking about the folks at Astrolab. I hope you folks remember that interview. Quite interesting indeed. It'll be also intriguing to see who ends up winning this competition, because the only organization that really has a pressing need for a lunar rover, at least for rovers capable of hauling people around, is NASA. All right, let's go ahead and head up this way to VAST. Can go ahead and check out these folks. They're always some of my favorites. And as you can see, VAST has a close connection with SpaceX. They are the one company that's looking to provide private space stations to replace the ISS, and their relationship with SpaceX is very close. They put SpaceX vehicles into virtually every animation, every concept, every piece of concept art, etc., always involves SpaceX. Here's a sleep system. This is a little bit bigger, a little bit more spacious than the NASA sleep habitats. And once again, as you can see, Crew Dragon. What else would they put there, right? They certainly wouldn't put Starliner in there. Very, very interesting. I am a big fan of VAST. We probably aren't going to be able to get inside, but once again, for those of you watching the channel, I have a tour of their Haven 1 space station module. And then the place is loaded with companies that you probably haven't heard of either, that I haven't heard of. I don't believe we've been down this way. We'll go ahead and take a quick look. And again, folks who just manufacture components, pieces of these very recognizable spacecraft, lithium batteries for SLS and Orion, these little components that make the functionality of these vehicles possible. And in many cases, doing the same type of work for competitors, arch competitors having the same components built in. Very intriguing stuff indeed. We have the presence of at least some international representatives, like the Swedish Space Corporation, but I'll be honest, the presence of the international presence here is substantially less than what I've recalled in previous space symposiums. A lot of folks canceled their visits, and this was in reaction to, in many cases, European citizens being stopped, denied entry, etc. recently. So we've been running into some difficulties, which has led to some European, at least in representation, I think, from a number of other countries also being completely absent. It's Colorado Springs Chamber. You know, let's circle around. Don't want to try to weave our way through that crowd. Guess what? NASA's open now. We have an opportunity to have a look at some of this stuff. Really neat. So we'll start from one end and work our way down. Once again, NASA likes to advertise in every state as to how many jobs they support, how many jobs they have here, and the economic output that they have for this particular state. Sustainable Flight Demonstration Project aims to advance key airframe technologies. I haven't heard about this one as much. X-66 experimental aircraft. NASA and Boeing. And then, of course, Lunar Starship. Let's see what NASA has to say about it. Working with the U.S. industry to develop the human landing system that will safely carry astronauts from lunar orbit to the moon surface and back under Artemis. SpaceX's Starship HLS for Artemis 3 and Artemis 4, and Blue Origin's Blue Moon HLS for Artemis 5. And that, of course, is there. That is a cool-looking model, actually. I kind of like that one. Again, I'm not a big fan of how tall and top-heavy either one of these things are. This one has a little bit of a broader base for its landing gear, but I don't know. And, of course, SLS, combining power and unparalleled capability. Well, I don't know about unparalleled, but anyway, SLS rocket is part of NASA's backbone for deep space exploration in Artemis, the only rocket that can send Orion astronauts and cargo directly to the moon in a single launch, and that is very true, at least currently. NASA ISRO synthetic aperture radar mission. That's intriguing. I hadn't heard about that one. Very interesting. And then, of course, we have the part of the commercial Crew Dragon, of course, being the only functional part of the commercial Crew program. Starliner, possibly the most cursed spacecraft in NASA's history. Hopefully, at some point, maybe it will recover, or if it doesn't, then abandoned in its current state. We certainly hope it improves from where it is right now. But nevertheless, got a chance to have a look at NASA as well. We're going to head down to the vast mock-up, where we will end our tour of this floor anyway. But I have to admit, it's always a pleasure to come to these things. Want to make sure that we give the pooch some space. All right, so we're just about out. And VAST making it very clear where their Haven 1 experience is, in case anybody is unfamiliar with it. And again, odds are we're not going to be going in. Just make sure. Actually, I did film something. But at least we'll get a quick gawk at it. I thought I couldn't, but I'm going to. As you can see, that's a very sizable module. And for those of you who watched the video about the tour, again, very cool to get an opportunity to see inside that. All right, guys, for those of you who've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I've reported a lot on VAST. So now we get an opportunity to have a look at a space station module. I believe this is Haven 2 that we're going to be looking at. Haven 1, actually. Good. I've got folks correcting me on this today. So let's go check it out. The aesthetics here are really amazing. It's just beautiful in here. It really stands out tremendously compared to the utilitarian appearance of the International Space Station. All the paneling, just beautiful. But really, it's an amazing, oh, have a look. The biocapsule, as it is called. But to give you an idea, we're looking at 3D printing of a variety of different space-age materials, things that can only be manufactured in zero gravity or microgravity. And then in addition to that, you're also looking at 3D printing of things like human organs up here and other biological materials. And then, of course, space tourism also. So right now we have the airlock, obviously. At least that's what it appears to be. And yeah, it again, just to get an idea of what we're seeing here, this is a dramatic change compared to the sorts of space station modules that we've seen in the past. Clearly, VAST is trying to make a statement here, offering a much, much different look aesthetically compared to the types of modules that we used to see in space before. A dramatic difference. Let's have a look back in here one more time. So once again, folks, the common area in here. I missed that. So we get a spectacular view of the Earth, obviously, through that port. Just a dramatic appearance for a space station module. Quite an interesting convention, as it is always. Glad to be here, and thanks for watching. All right, folks. So we are back here at the conference live at this point. We had to do a recorded tour simply because of some of the challenges we had in trying to make everything mobile, all of our equipment mobile, but at least we were still able to bring you a tour. I hope you enjoyed all of that. Once again, as I'm sure you've been able to notice, we have the Astrolab and Hewlett-Packard Lunar Rover behind us. And we have VAST at the other end over on the other side. If we can go ahead and get them real quick. So not a bad location that we got to film here. But once again, we were allowed, actually even encouraged, to do this podcast from the conference floor. And I'll tell you, that's not an easy thing to do, nor have there been a lot of people who have had an opportunity to do this. So grateful to Space Symposium, so grateful to the Space Foundation, to our guest today. And yeah, hope you guys have enjoyed this broadcast. And at some point, maybe you can get an opportunity to attend a Space Symposium as well. But if not, I will definitely continue bringing you coverage like this. If you would like to support this kind of content, if you want me to come back, the details are in the description, or you can toss a super chat on this stream. Thanks again for watching. And as always, stay angry about space.